of bets, then I'm part of the club. So it pays for itself. It's a business, that's all.
Okay, welcome very much to the conversation. Distinct pleasure to welcome a friend of mine from way back who continues. That's Carl Pearson. He's now on the credits shown as a foreclosure defense attorney. He's also a candidate, I think currently, even in the current situation, for Attorney General of the state of New York, which I've heard him say on some occasions may be the most powerful office in the world.
Most powerful elected officer or official in the United States.
In the United States. Yep. There might be a more potentate somewhere across the world. But
well, I know I can say safely it's the most powerful elected office in New York State, and that one person could have changed our economy. It could have prevented what happened.
You mean in 2008?
Yes, in 2008, because the New York State Attorney General is in charge of securitization, securities, antitrust, philanthropic organizations, stock exchange, the real estate syndications and real estate, those things.
Outside of that, he hasn't got any power at all.
That's right.
Anyway, Carl, so good to see you and everything. And I know we're going to be talking about these matters and so forth. I know you're involved with. You're one of the busiest people I've ever in my whole life known. I tell you, I turn around, you're writing another book, and you're writing on so many things. You've got so many hats you wear. And it's so wonderful to see you. Dear friend of mine, Carl Pearson, and
really
the university.
Appreciate that. Okay.
So anyway, you're going along. Haven't seen you in far too long, and everything is so good. We're involved in things and everything. Now you're focusing still. We want to focus on this foreclosure stuff, and you brought it up about the Attorney General, and brought up the thing about 2008, which was an amazing happenstance that went on, and we had we're going to do a program next week with Judge Shack again. Okay. Yeah, he's a good guy and everything like that. I think he is. But maybe it's good to go back to that. You're an attorney, and I know you're self-taught in lots of ways. You start. We've been through that so many times. your bio. But let's say about the situation that came up in 2008. It was an incredible kind of thing that went on, wasn't it? And have you seen the movie Too Big to Fail that Sorkin put together?
I forget. I see so many movies and read so many books.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, it's very hard for me to remember now if I saw that. I read a book the other day. I read about a book a day.
I know.
But, I have an interesting habit, and that is that with certain books that I really like, I forget what the book is about, and I read it again. So I've read some books 10 or 20 times.
You're very well read, young man.
I do read a lot. But it's the same book. It saves me money.
Yeah, right. Okay, good enough. But that was something. Remember Mr. Paulson came in and kneeled down before Nancy Pelosi. He had a 3-page thing on the 20th of September and said, Nancy, you have to sign this through the House by the end of this week, and the president has to sign it, or the whole world's going to fall apart.
Too big to fail.
So maybe we could take it from there. You were watching all of that then?
I read about it. I forget if I watched it, but I certainly saw a lot about that. And the thing is, as I recall, that one really didn't know, and you would assume that the people that are intimately involved would really know what was going on. And we now have Geithner saying that he didn't really understand what was going on.
Right.
I mean, that's what's going on here. They give away trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
But, I've come up with a solution for the mortgage crisis.
Wow, that's really big.
And it's really the way that I think will happen, but it's no more than what should happen. But I found a way that we can implement it without waiting for the crooks to do this. We can implement it in a different way.
Well, then, by all means, let's spell it out.
Here's what it is. Now, very few people know that in New York State, the voters have a right to enact laws locally.
Okay, that's right. I know we've talked about that in the past with you.
Right. So
you could get an attorney general representation for the people rather than just a special interest.
I now have done the research where I really understand the different ways by which voters in New York can enact laws. The basic way is in 62 cities in New York. There are exactly 62 cities.
Really? Okay.
There are exactly 62 counties, but there's not one county in every city. I'm sorry, there's not one city in every county.
Yeah, right.
Nassau County has 2 cities.
Uh-huh.
Suffolk County has no cities, just to give you an example.
Okay.
New York City has 5 counties.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a mix.
Right.
New York City, with 8 million something population, is the largest city, obviously, in New York State.
Yeah.
Whereas Sherrill, in I think it's Oneida County, has 3,500 population.
Right.
So,
okay.
so the
Yeah.
population varies dramatically,
right.
even though you're called a city.
Right.
But a city is the only place where the voters have a right to enact their own laws directly, in spite of what the local council may want.
And there's a legal definition of that makes it a city, a charter or something?
It's New York State that assigns them the category of city.
And that's been assigned by the
There's
authorities.
a list of 62, and if you look up in Wikipedia,
Yeah.
cities in New York, they list all 62.
Okay, good. Okay,
they're there.
interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
And they have certain authorities
They
for
have
doing...
they have under Section 37 of the New York Municipal Home Rule Law,
Yeah.
and this is a petition under that Home Rule Law.
Yeah, you can hold it up. They're not
You
going to
won't
read
be
all
able to
that.
read it.
No, but what
But this is what a petition, a 2-sided petition where people, voters, registered voters
Right.
in this city
Right.
can sign the petition, and then when 30,000 people in New York sign it, or
In the state of New York?
or in New York City,
In New York City, you're
or
talking now.
if
Okay.
80 people
Yeah.
in Sherrill sign it,
I see.
it's in proportion.
Okay.
It's
what
10%
percentage?
of the number of people who voted for governor in the last gubernatorial election in New York State.
Okay.
So if you take the number of people in Sherrill who voted for governor 4 years ago, take 10% of that, and you have to have a minimum number of signatures on this petition equal to that number.
Wow. Okay, that's a
Or
definite figure you can aim
or
at.
30,000 max for New York City.
Uh-huh.
So the what I want to do in New York, and I have a petition on my website, and this is all nonprofit, by the way. It's worse than nonprofit. I'm spending time and money.
Yeah.
I'm not making anything, and I don't look for anything. I don't want anything.
Okay.
I just want to achieve the purpose here, which is that the country has severe economic problems.
No doubt about
And
it.
I have some solutions to it, and I'm spending my time and money trying to achieve it. And
Good for you,
I've been
Congressman.
nominated for the Attorney General slot because of this voter laws.
That's on the Libertarian Party?
Libertarian Party. 4 years ago, I was
Yeah.
their candidate for the same office. I
Okay.
came in third.
Uh-huh.
So the way of curing foreclosures.
You're the candidate now.
Again, I've been nominated a second time. This time, I'm very active now.
Yeah, okay.
Last time with a former gubernatorial candidate, I really had nothing to do. Now I'm very active, and I think that we'll have this success. We need 50,000 votes to get on the ballot and be able to designate candidates in every town and village and city and county in the in New York. If we get 50,000 votes, so a vote for a Republican or a Democrat is truly a wasted vote, because it doesn't matter whether the Republicans or Democrats win. You're not going to get what you hope.
Say that again.
Yes.
That
a
whole
vote,
couple sentences.
A vote for a Republican or Democrat is absolutely a wasted vote, because it makes no difference who wins.
Not that. The part before that. If you get so many votes or
Well,
something,
if
who are the
if
we?
we get, if
Is it
the Libertarian
the
Party,
Libertarian
if the
Party.
gubernatorial candidate, the word gubernatorial
Yeah.
means governor.
How many did they get in the last?
We got 48,200 or something
And you have
like
to get
that.
how many?
50,000.
50,000.
We came very close.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Kristen Davis took away our votes. The madam who ran also, she had maybe 8,000 votes, and those votes really would have gone to us. So we lost because of another third-party candidate.
And
We're not complaining
50,000 is
about
the
it.
magic number that lets you do
Yes,
things
it's
that
a
if you don't
statutory.
achieve that, you can do things if you meet that. Okay,
Here's what the thing is, that if we get 50,000 votes, like the Green Party got last year, so they are a party,
yeah.
they have a right to designate without gathering signatures.
Okay.
They designate their candidates without gathering signatures.
I see.
We, as not a party,
Uh,
have to go out in a 43-day period beginning July 8th and ending 43 days later. We have to go out in the heat of the sun,
yeah.
where people are on vacation,
Right,
and gather 30,000 signatures
Yeah,
or
big
something like
task,
that,
yeah, big burden,
which was
yeah.
a big burden, and
Yeah.
we don't have any money or time
Yeah,
left to
right.
try to get people interested
Right.
in our. We waste our time and money gathering
I
signatures.
got you. And if you get that, then what does that open up to
It
you? if you
means
do?
that we will be then an official quote party unquote.
Okay.
A party has the right to designate without petitioning,
Uh-huh.
and it also has a duty of providing a when there's an intra-party strife, you have the where the people work it out, and they have I can't even think of the term because
Yeah.
we don't use it, but
Yeah.
it's where the competing candidates in a given party have a right to have a vote of the people to determine who is really going to be on the ballot. I
Okay.
can't even think of the term. I should
Mm.
think of it. But that is a democratic way of running parties. But we're not yet a party because we don't have 50,000 votes.
And if you do, then what is that going to open up to you?
Then
That's
for the
it.
party,
Or the
it
party.
isn't for me. It's
Yeah.
for the party.
Yeah.
This Libertarian Party will then, in every town, village, city, and county in New York State, they will and including the state officials for Attorney General, Controller, Lieutenant Governor,
Yeah,
and Governor, we
right.
have the right then to designate by our own party convention who will be running. We
Okay.
don't have to gather signatures.
Right.
But
Oh, yeah.
now to try to put people on the ballot, we would have to gather something like 10 million signatures
Wow.
to put people on the ballot, which
Yeah.
we have no money to do.
Right.
If we get that 50,000 votes, then every town and in every election in every town, county, hamlet, village, city, whatever in New York State, we can designate people to run, and we will be electing people then who will be disposed to doing what we're trying to do
Okay.
is to really facilitate small business, to get rid of the government instead of having the government regulate every aspect of our life. We really want to see a deregulation and let people do things. We want to have the freedom for people to do things.
Uh-huh.
But my main interest is in getting people to do small business. Now, getting back to the petition and the mortgage,
Yeah.
I have a petition on voterlaws.com in which if the voters in New York City adopt that petition, it would enable New York City to condemn underwater mortgages.
Underwater mortgages.
Yeah,
Okay.
a person that has a mortgage and he owes $1 million on
Yeah,
the mortgage
yeah.
may have a home that is only worth $500,000,
Okay.
and as a result, he can't get refinancing because no bank is going to pay off $1 million in order to get a $500,000 property.
Right.
So a person underwater is stuck with a bank, and if the bank says they're not giving a loan mod, then you're stuck and you're going to lose your home. But if we could, and then in doing so, you have a lot of homes that are vacant, and you have vandalism, and you have a
Right.
deterioration of the community. You
Absolutely.
have
It's going on.
It goes down.
Yeah.
The whole community goes down.
Yeah.
So a way of preserving that is to squeeze the water out of the underwater mortgages, and to make the homeowner be given a home that he can pay off at its present value.
How is that all done in terms of the one that he
Because
already
be-
holds? Or
Well,
that-
he has his. It would be the same home.
Ah.
He wouldn't be forced to leave. He would be able to refinance it if the value of the property, if the amount that he owed on the, if the amount that he could borrow from the bank was equal to the value of the property,
Yeah.
he could then get a loan from another bank.
Is that something that could be done, what, legislatively or how?
No, but we can do it by a voter law, by a petition signed by the voters. We can create that in New York City.
Really?
Yeah.
In New
We
York
can
City?
do anything. Let me explain what can be done.
Yeah.
In New York City, the voters have a right to enact any laws at all that the city council would have a right to enact. And any laws that the city council have enacted where they had a right to do so, we can take away that right.
Huh.
We can veto legislation that we don't like and we think is abusive. For example, if you don't like the Campaign Financing Act because it only truly gives the voter money to the Republican and Democratic candidates and it doesn't give any to me, then we, by voter laws, can take away that by repealing that local statute. It's only a local statute called the New York City Campaign Finance Act.
Okay.
It's a local statute. We can do away with the hack bureau.
The hack.
I mean, the Taxi and Limousine Commission.
Oh.
It's only a local law that created it. We can uncreate it. We can abolish it. If you don't like anything they're doing, we can do away with it. The voters have a right to do it. Now, remember this.
Well, what are the terms by which that has to be? How many votes and how is that
30,000.
30,000.
Well, you need to get on the ballot.
Yeah,
30,000
okay.
of these, plus 15,000 after the city rejects it.
Uh-huh.
You submit it with 20,000, 30,000, and the city says, "Oh, we're not going to do this. We could have done it if we wanted to, but we're not going to do it." Then I have to go back and get 15,000 more
That's
signatures.
experience talking?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
And then it goes on the ballot. There'll be a fight. They'll go into court, and you have to prove that you have the number of signatures. Then it goes on the ballot. Now, if you have 14 candidates running for mayor like myself,
Yeah.
only one can win,
Yeah, right.
and de Blasio won.
Yeah, right, right.
But if you have 14 ballot initiatives on the ballot, and each one is a different subject matter, all 14 can win. If you vote for a candidate, how often does your candidate give you what you think you were voting for?
Practically never.
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 Never. They can't.
I
They
can
can't.
get rid of the practical.
But if you vote for this and it wins, what do you get?
Yeah,
you get
everything.
exactly what's
Yeah.
on here.
Uh-huh.
How can you not want to do this?
Yeah,
This
right.
is a substitute for voting the fraudulent voting that practices that go on right now. This is a substitute. This can put them in check. This is a check and balance.
Yeah.
It may be the only one left.
Yeah, and a system that seems running amok. It
Yeah.
seems in many people's way because the trends are not good.
How powerful is that if
Yeah.
if voters have a right to enact their own laws directly?
I can't. There's something wrong here somewhere, Lord
There-
Beaverbrook or whoever it would be and everything. But that's all there. And then that's interesting. So that's really interesting, and I wish you well and everything, helping them where we can and all that. What about the idea that you're now doing foreclosure defense work now?
what
Maybe we
happens-
could get to that.
Okay,
because
what happened there is
this
that
is very interesting. Yeah.
this is the way of salvaging our economy.
Wow.
Yeah, we can-
the economy.
Oh
you
yes,
think?
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Spell it out.
Okay,
Carl,
what
yeah.
I think we need in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, let me back up. Do you know
Please.
that I created 1 million jobs in the country? Are
You
you
did
aware of
some,
that?
you had the paralegal school.
Well, I
you started.
created the paralegal field.
I know you
There's
did.
1 million people working as paralegals today.
Mm-hmm.
I contributed to that substantially.
You did.
Because
I know.
I started the second school in the country, and it was open to everyone. The first school was not.
When did you do that?
That was in 1952.
Way the hell back in the dark
50,
ages.
yeah, 50,
right. Good
something
for you.
like
You
that.
saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You saw
Oh,
that
yeah.
then. Yeah, you've
But-
always
but
been ahead of the curve.
I was a lawyer, and I knew
Yeah.
what a lawyer needed. But
Right.
the truth of it is that these people working are not working for people like me. They're working for major law firms. So I really missed the mark on that one. But I've been a business person since
Yes.
age 9.
Yeah.
I had a newspaper route. I had to pay the expenses of the newspaper. I had to collect the money. If I didn't collect it, I didn't get
I
paid.
had a product. I had to do the same thing in Detroit.
I've-
They had the
I've
same
been
scam
I've been
going.
a business
Yeah,
person
right.
since age 9.
Yeah, right, right.
I know what a business person needs. I know what help I need.
I know you do. Yeah.
There's 27.5 million small businesses in the United States.
20,
And
wow.
and they could each hire one person and pay them between $25 and $60 an hour. But there's not a single person in the United States that's been trained to go to work as number 2 to a small business person.
Is that right?
There's no training program.
It seems to
I
me
know
that
because
would-
I was licensed. I created that program.
Well, you did it for the legal.
I did it, but at the
legal
same time,
paralegals, yeah.
I created a different program.
Another one, a
Yes,
different one,
yeah.
separate from
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
And that was in the works, and
Well,
we're going.
it was. I was
Yeah.
beginning to teach it. I had federal student loans. I had accreditation, and I had licensing on not the paralegal. That was a
yeah,
given. That was a
separate.
given.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yeah.
But it started out like this: that 2,000 schools came in after me.
Yeah.
And my market declined because I had 2,000 schools all over the country competing with me. So I had empty classrooms. I said, now what can I do with them? So I issued a press release saying that I'm willing to take people off of welfare in New York City at my own expense. And all I wanted was a percentage of the money that I saved in New York City.
Okay. When was this going?
This was in about 1960, 70. I have to think now what year it was. About 1970, 1977, roughly.
I've known you a long
Yeah.
time. You've got rabbits you pull
1977,
out of the
yeah.
hat that you've been doing that I didn't even
Okay,
know
but
about. I
here-
can't keep up with
well,
all the work you've been
but
doing.
here's what happened.
Busiest person I've ever known in my life.
Here's what happened.
Yeah.
The head of welfare, I went on television, WOR TV,
Yeah.
had me, interviewed me because of my press release.
Uh-huh.
And I told him I'm willing to train people at my own expense. I have the space, I have the talent to do it. I know.
Was that
I,
some space that was from the legal thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
in the
okay,
school,
right.
I had
Yeah,
empty
school.
classrooms.
Where was that?
Downtown at 132 Nassau Street.
Okay, okay.
At
right.
Beekman, corner of Beekman, second
Right,
floor.
okay,
I had
yeah.
the half the floor.
Yeah.
So the head of welfare, a lawyer, called me up and said that I'm very interested. Could you please submit a proposal?
Mm.
So I prepared a proposal, which is now the predecessor to the current program, but
Yeah.
it's based on the same concept.
Right.
Using all of the technology that existed back then that small business needed, I then put together a curriculum, and I had some other motivations built in. I submitted this curriculum, and the top lawyer for New York City for the welfare department, called me up and said, "Carl, could you please come over here? I'd like to talk about your program." So I went over there to 130 Church Street or something like that, met with a lawyer, and he said, "You know, your program is the greatest program I have ever seen in my life, and I want to be your first student."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was really a fantastic program. I would take it myself, except
Yeah.
I had to teach it.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, it's really a good program.
It's hard to sit in the class and in
That's-
front of the
that's
class
correct.
at the same
It
time.
was really that
Can't
good.
be in two places
I
at
mean,
once.
it
yeah.
isn't that I put in
I
everything.
think you do get two places at
I
one in order to
didn't-
get everything done.
I didn't
yeah.
put in the program everything I knew. I put in everything I knew and what I wanted to know. I added things that I thought we all should know, even though I didn't know it.
Yeah, it's some vision. Yeah, right. Good.
So
yeah.
the lawyer said, "This is great. You'll hear from me." So about 10 years went by, and a lawyer dropped in because I had thousands of people applying for a job because I was hiring teachers, only lawyers.
Mhm.
So a lawyer dropped in, and I interviewed him, and he said, "You may remember me, that I'm the one that you
Yeah.
met when he's looking for a job now."
Did you remember?
Yeah, and I said, "Oh yeah, whatever happened there?
Yeah,
Why didn't you
yeah,
do anything?"
right.
And he said, "Because we knew that you wanted more than 5%. I mean, it was obvious that if you're going to train people and save $1 million, you're worth more than 5%.
Yeah.
And we in New York City were only contributing 5% to the welfare budget, 10% from the state and 85% federal government. So we knew that it wouldn't work.
Oh,
So that's why we didn't bother. But we liked the idea.
oh, right.
So, but that was the program now and it was designed for people who were addicted and in the Health Addiction Services Agency of the Welfare Department.
Uh-huh.
I designed it to enable them to get a job, and I did it where I knew a market existed, working for small business, doing the work that I do, because small business people have to do everything.
Yeah.
There's no one else to do it.
Right.
We can't hire an elevator repair operator because we don't have an elevator.
Right.
We can't hire a robotics. We don't have robots.
Right.
We need a person to do 100 different things, not one specialty.
Yeah, right.
100, and that's difficult.
Johnny on the spot.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
So
sure.
that's what a small business person does. We do a lot of the stuff that's administrative housekeeping, for which we don't have anyone to pick up the slack.
Do you think it's similar
Yeah.
with the legal the legal thing you
The
were doing?
paralegal is the same
Paralegals,
concept.
The same concept.
Well, a veterinarian
you need a Johnny,
assistant.
a person that's got a real
A
ability
veterinarian
to move
assistant.
and think. Yeah.
A veterinarian assistant,
Yeah.
a paralegal, a
Right,
legal
yeah.
assistant, a teacher's assistant, a doctor's assistant, a nurse's assistant.
Yeah.
This is a business assistant.
Yeah,
we
right.
need a small business assistant.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And there is no training program in the country.
Right.
The reason for that is that there's more than 100 different disciplines that have to be taught.
All right.
And how can you ask a person that teaches philosophy to teach these 100 different subjects?
Right.
He doesn't
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
The teachers in the high school are not going to do it. The teachers in college, they're not going to do it. There's nobody that's going to do it. You need a small business person.
So you got a need that could be met.
Right.
That would be a good business,
Right.
a good idea to get going.
Well,
yeah.
so if we can train people in a market so that an employer like myself would then be willing to hire somebody and pay them 25 or 50 an hour easily.
Yeah.
We could afford it.
Yeah.
And if the person doesn't work out, we fire the person, and the next day we get a replacement. But you can only do that if you have people trained in advance. I can't. The small business person like me cannot take the time to train anyone. I'm too busy. I'm working all the time. And one of the things
I'm here to testify.
Right,
you
right.
don't stop. The
Right.
Energizer Bunny is
Well,
nothing
one of the-
compared to Carl Pearson.
One of the things that is truly a given for small business is that the one who would be the assistant to a person like myself has got to learn that you never talk to me. I don't want to be bothered. I want you to solve the problems. If you can't solve the problem, then call up somebody who can, but don't bother me. I want to be free to do my work. I want you to learn how to do it. Don't come to me at all.
Okay.
That's what we need.
That could be a general lesson.
That's what we need.
Yeah, okay.
And that if the people can do that, then I'm willing to pay them 50 an hour. It's easy. And anyone, half the people that are small business would
Is that
gladly,
something that can be taught, or is it
yeah,
something
you
that's
can
part of
teach it.
family
No, you can
training
teach
or
it.
background or
You need
thinking on
100
your feet?
You
know?
need 100 different disciplines where you acquaint them with Microsoft Word, with a
Spreadsheets
100
and,
different things.
Yeah, right.
And then if they don't understand one of them, then they're going to have to learn on their own. Don't bother me.
I got you, yeah.
Find out where you
Yeah.
can do it, but don't bother me. The course will teach them where to go, but don't bother me.
It'd be good.
I'm worth hundreds of dollars
It'd be
per
good
hour.
candidates for autodidactic learning on their
Right,
own.
a
yeah,
person-
and they'd have to be bright in that way.
A business person that does 300,000 a year gross income is earning 150 an hour for the 2,000 hours that he puts in per year. He's gathering money at the rate of $150 an hour, but not if he's doing this kind of work that a lower priced person could do. So we're all losing. Small business is not competitive. We're
Does
not
that
able.
apply to all? It could apply to the
Everywhere.
economy writ
Across
large.
the board.
Could be across the board. Yeah, right.
So that's the
Yeah.
economics of small business. We
Yeah.
are stifling ourselves by keeping us down so that we can't do the things that we are trained to do and really know how to do. Instead, we're doing the stuff that's $25, $50 an hour work. And that is ruining small business, and it's preventing us from competing with big business, and it's allowing them to control the country.
Boy, you really
Yeah.
got it down, pal.
Oh,
you
yeah,
really got
I know
it
this.
down.
I know what I'm
so that
talking
could
about.
go
Yeah,
along.
yeah.
Now, what have we got you down as foreclosure defense? You're focusing on that. We started talking about 2008
Only because
and
there's
all
a
that.
need.
Yeah,
There's a need.
yeah, right.
What happened was that I was an antitrust lawyer
Yeah, I know.
and civil
yeah.
rights lawyer,
Civil
and
rights,
I'm
yeah.
telling you that neither one of those can you get very much justice when you go into court. The civil rights field has always been difficult. It's always been difficult, and the antitrust
Well, we
field.
had to have a civil rights movement in order to get
Well,
out of what was essentially
the-
indentured slavery.
The
you know.
only way of getting,
Yeah.
the only way of enforcing the laws is to go into court, and the courts have been appointing people that are less inclined to give any justice. The higher up you go, the less justice you get.
The higher up you go in the legal
Oh, absolutely.
court system,
Yeah, the less you can
justice.
expect to receive,
Why is that?
because they want finality to the litigation.
They want finality.
If you have one judge, if you start reversing cases, then
Yeah.
then when does it come to an end?
Yeah.
So the theory is basically, I guess, that look, you're going to have some errors in the whole process. Juries do wrong, this and that.
Yeah.
But we just can't have a lot of people going back for another try. You take your shot. You either win or lose. It may be fair or unfair, but life goes on. We just can't keep the thing going up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
So the courts generally reverse maybe 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10, or something like that. My figure may be off according
Yeah,
to
at
which
the
court.
appellate level,
But yeah,
yeah.
and then the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
How often do they do
Yeah,
anything?
hardly,
But
yeah.
they're not there for justice, by the way. That is not their bag. If they see something that is clearly unjust, they are not going to touch it. That's not their bag.
What is there?
Their bag is this: that we have about 11 or 12 judicial districts in the United States called the First Circuit, the Second Circuit, Third Circuit.
Right.
They will only get involved 99% of the time if there's a conflict between decisions in 1, 2, or more of the courts. Then they will get involved and try to resolve that. They're not going to look for errors because there's millions of errors and injustice all over the place.
Yeah.
They don't want to be bothered with that. So they really just look for conflicts and resolve that. That's all they're in the business of doing. So don't even bother with the Supreme Court.
So where does that leave us? And what are some of the priorities now?
Well, my priority
And particularly,
is
you're talking about your foreclosure
okay.
issues. and so-
In foreclosures, here's the way it works, and I'm really honestly, I want to say it only because I believe it to be true, and people will not find any. It's hard to find a person like myself. There's really
You
very,
are pretty rare. You
there
are
are
rare,
very,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
you would think that
Yeah.
others are doing what I'm doing, and I
Yeah.
don't find them. I don't really see anyone out here. I'm sure that there are 3,100 different state court jurisdictions in the country. Each county is a separate court system.
Okay.
And if you live in one county, you must bring your action, or the bank must bring its foreclosure action in that one county.
Right.
So you have 3,100 counties in which a different set of lawyers basically work.
Right.
The ones
Right.
that work near the court, they live near the court.
Right. Right.
So out of 3,100 counties, you would assume that that a county would have somebody like me, but I don't find anyone.
What is somebody like you characterized by?
Well,
Or
I'm
what
a
characterizes you?
commercial litigator.
Uh-huh.
I'm a commercial litigator. I'm at home with patents, trademarks, copyrights, unfair competition, distribution systems, FERIA. I'm antitrust, price discrimination. I handle commercial cases.
Okay.
That's my
Okay.
skill.
Yeah, okay,
Difficult
right.
commercial cases.
Right.
And I've done it for a lifetime.
Yeah.
But antitrust, which was my specialty,
Yeah.
no longer is enforceable in the courts. You really can't go into court and enforce it.
Well,
It's very difficult. The
what's the
Supreme,
trend that we can see, and
the trend is that the people that have the money have voted in the people who pass the laws and appoint the judges to make it difficult in every respect across the board. In everything you try to do, it is now skewed towards the rich. The rich prevail and the rest of us lose our money and
So,
our
and
homes.
generally, that's
Yeah.
part of the too big to fail
That's correct.
principle.
The
Seems
whole
to have
thing.
become reified as
The whole thing.
a constant.
So
or-
what I've done now is I've tried to. I understand what I'm doing, and I think people should understand also the difference between what it is you want
Mhm.
and what it is now that we have the possibility of getting. I specialize
that's
in the latter.
Uh-huh.
I do not enjoy talking about what we think we might be able to
Or
do.
what
You are-
idealistically might be able
that's
to
you.
do.
You're the one who thinks of all the things we might be doing. You do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I can't engage in that
Mhm.
only because it's so wasteful.
Yeah.
Because we're losing everything today. What can you do to stop this thing today?
Mhm.
I have answers to that.
Okay.
And your thing is so long range.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, we've argued in the past.
Yeah,
you
yeah, we
were
have for a
saying
long
in the
time, yeah.
and I said I don't believe it. You were telling us 4 or 5 years ago that there's going to be we're going to be eliminating jobs where there really won't be any jobs, and I said that's ridiculous.
Well,
But it really isn't ridiculous. I agree with you now that we are heading that way. Absolutely. But
and our whole economic system is predicated upon a labor theory of value. Income is distributed by labor,
well,
by and large, to
okay,
most people.
So if you had
They have no ownership of capital at all.
If
no
you
other
had
way.
if you had your way, you would figure out a solution. If you could do it, you know a solution. But
yeah.
I know that you're not going to achieve that solution. See,
Uh-huh.
I am aware that
Yeah.
you can't do it.
Yeah, you're,
You
yeah.
want to do it, and I know you can't. So
Uh-huh.
I don't focus on what you want to do. I
Yeah.
focus on what I think we can do today.
Okay, right.
So
okay, you're
the-
practical. yeah.
very practical.
Yeah, right.
But I use the laws that we have
Yeah,
still,
right.
and I have designed, with those laws in mind, I have figured out a solution.
Mm-hmm.
I have a solution
To that large
to
issue.
the issue of the economy. I have
to the issue of unemployment,
yes,
massive
absolutely,
technologically
absolutely.
induced unemployment.
Absolutely, but
Okay.
it isn't going to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
It won't last 100 years.
What won't last a lifetime?
My
Your
solution
Yeah.
is maybe a 30 or 40-year solution, but I don't think it. I think that
But
in
it's
the long
practical and maybe doable
Very,
within
very
the
practical.
within the immediate. Yeah.
within the immediate I can create, I believe, and this
Mm.
is all just my belief because I don't know. I want to test it.
Yeah.
But I believe that I can create prosperity in a town of about 10 or 15,000 people, and I think it's easy to do. I can
Okay.
make those people wealthy, relatively wealthy, a lot better off than they are now. Not everyone, but I
Yeah.
mean, if anyone who wants to participate, people can drag their heels and not want to participate. I'm not going to force them to
Yeah.
participate.
Do that by?
But it's a simple thing.
Yeah.
Number one, do you know what viral means? Because
Viral,
you
I
went
just-
viral with you had a conversation that went viral. You had 1 million hits on one of your things.
Well, there's one of 3 million.
Okay, you're
yeah.
3 million.
Yeah.
So you went viral on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that did. Yeah.
Okay, I cannot envision that what I do is ever going to go viral. It's too complicated.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
not an abortion. Like a little bit on abortion, then you might go viral. But that's just a one-liner, very short thing. Mine is complicated.
Yeah.
And the economy is complicated.
Yes,
and they
it
took
is.
a long time to get to where they are.
Right.
And I have to undo it now. And I figured out how to do it. So I can't go viral in the national sense. So all of this stuff on internet and all that is a waste of my time. I view it. It's a waste of my
Okay.
time.
Okay.
I can't go viral nationally.
Because it's too complicated.
It's too costly and complicated.
But what is it?
But I can't do it statewide. I can't go viral in a state.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even go viral in a county.
Mm-hmm.
But I can go 100% viral in a small town.
Oh, okay. 10,000, you said. Yeah.
I can go viral
a lot
in a
of
small town.
10,000 smaller towns.
Or
around, yeah.
15,000. And
Or
here's how to
15,
do it.
Yeah.
Here's how to do it.
Yeah.
I've calculated I need one person per 1,000 population.
Mm-hmm.
So if I try to go viral in a town of 10,000, I need 10 people. 15 for 15,000. I need to rent or use an unoccupied store where the people
Or
have left, and the owner would be happy to have me go in there because
you pay something.
maybe it'd be
Oh,
sales for his other stores in the area.
yeah.
So I can rent the place for almost nothing, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
right.
Or I'll take a house and I'll pay people. It's going to cost $25,000, I figure, for about a 3-month makeover. I can do it in 3 months. I'm going to have, and there will be a war room where we know every single house, every single business in that community. Every
Yeah.
single one will have to be accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
That's no big deal.
Not really.
That's
no.
no-
10,000.
it's
doable.
manageable.
It's doable. It's
It's
within
manageable.
the range of what could be done.
I'm going
yeah.
to go with my people door to door and knock on every door and get the email address of every single person in town. And if I have some obstacles, I will know who the friends are, and I'll go to them and ask them if
You
they
keep
want.
saying you'll do that, but if you're
My
doing
people,
it, if
my
you're doing it
people.
at 100, 10,000, you'd have to have other people do
My
it.
people.
Yeah,
My people.
your people.
I'm not
okay.
going to do it.
The
I'm
process
I'm going
will
to
do it.
show them what
Yeah.
to do.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So once I get the email address of everyone in town, every business person, every employee, everyone in town, what do you think I have at that moment?
Well, you have an e-list.
I now have the town's newest newspaper.
Okay. I mean,
Right.
yeah. Right. Well, you
A
have to worry
well
distributing
done,
that.
a
You
well
don't need
done.
boys with bicycles throwing the paper
no,
up
you
on the
don't.
porch.
No,
yeah,
you don't.
yeah,
An email is delivered by email at no cost instantaneously. I don't need the carriers that you think. I don't need the
Right,
printing presses. At a cost of $25,000, I will replace that $1 million paper. I will have the news that the public really wants, and they're not getting from the $1 million paper.
You got a lot of editorial stuff and
I
things
do.
and
It
putting
will have a
together.
nice,
You have to have
a
a
nice,
philosophy and
a
you know,
nice weekly newspaper that will show them what we're doing to advance the
What
economics.
will you be doing to advance the
Okay,
economics
here's
of
what
that
it is.
10,000
Here's what it is.
population
Here's what
town?
it is. Here's what it is. I'm going to have the seniors in high school take this program that I'm talking about, this educational program designed to work for small business. I'm going to qualify them to get a job anywhere in the country to earn $25 to $60 an hour without licensing anywhere in the country. And an adult education program of the same order.
Like
same
the
way.
legal thing, but this is
For small business.
Small business,
Right.
yeah.
So every single adult that wants a job can take that free course, but
They
they
take
have
the free course.
the adult education program. And if
How long is the
well,
course?
the same as the high school senior,
What, was that a year?
A
or
year.
something? The academic year, yeah.
a year.
Well,
And
they
it-
would take that apart from the school system?
in the
thing?
schools, right in the same teacher.
Inside the schools?
Well, in off hours,
no, off,
evening, weekends.
Okay, well.
So
okay.
if the high school has a core curriculum and the state says you can't do it, then I will have the high school seniors quit the high school and take the adult education program.
That's pretty serious.
Well,
they're
they
not
need.
going to graduate then.
Well, who cares? I
Well,
didn't
they're-
graduate.
No,
I
you
didn't
didn't.
graduate.
You went and got honors
Well,
at Harvard.
okay.
Yeah, but
It-
you
it-
you
isn't-
were not your normal
But if
citizen.
graduation is what's holding people up, if
well,
they think they have
that's
to,
the point.
well, then maybe we shouldn't be graduating people, and we should be giving them the training that will give them a job at $50 an hour. What's wrong with that? Then let
nothing
them go
wrong.
to college after.
You haven't got any argument from me,
Okay,
but you know,
okay, that's the first
Yeah,
step.
okay.
Now, you have to
that's
be.
a lot of steps.
It isn't much.
No,
Ju-
okay,
It
okay,
isn't
if
much
you
so
say-
far.
Mm.
If what we need to do, you have to be a resident of that town to take the training.
You could take the training as
Only
a
if you're a
sidebar.
resident.
You could take it to the
Only if you're a
as an
resident.
addition to your regular schooling.
The adult
could-
education is only
Adult-
open to residents,
Okay.
and the high school is only open to residents.
Mhm.
So what happens to land values if this is the only school in the country that will prepare you and any graduate for a $50 per hour job?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Land values will shoot up.
Yes, they would.
And what would
Yeah.
happen to local small businesses, they would have a market where they could hire people to expand. You would suddenly have a growth in small business.
You think there's that much promise in the small
27
business?
million.
There's that much promise in the small business
That's the only
waiting to
pla-
be unleashed.
It's the only place where jobs are going to be created.
Uh-huh.
We've been holding back small business.
Uh-huh.
We've been holding them back, and big business is prospering as a result of that. We're not allowing the competition that people need.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to give it. It'll have a run of 40 years. It may not last forever, but I'm only worried about the next 40 years.
40
frankly.
years is
Yeah,
a pretty
yeah,
good
yeah.
run.
Okay.
That's a pretty good run on
Right,
Broadway or
right,
anywhere
right.
else, you know.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah.
in addition to that, I want to have a stock exchange where small business can get financing, a local stock exchange. I want to have an area-wide payroll administrator administer the payroll for small business. ADP and Paychex will terminate a small business person that can't meet the payroll that week. They terminate them and they lose their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
They lose the right to hire. And that's why small business remains small, because there's that overhanging threat at all times when they use a payroll system that they will lose their insurance.
Right, right.
So that people don't hire people for that
This is
reason.
redolent of conversations you and
Yeah,
I have had in the
yes,
past,
yes,
right? And
yes,
I'm happy
yeah,
to see
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
really beginning to
Oh,
come to
absolutely,
fruition.
yeah.
We only got about 10 minutes left. What about the
Okay.
foreclosure thing?
Well, the
We
foreclosure.
got you down
okay,
as a
the,
corporate
the
defense.
foreclosure thing is this, and this is the heart of foreclosures now, because I
Okay.
really understand it more than anyone else. I'm really up there and understand it.
That's very important
I
in
really do.
emerging and new ways for people to
Here-
take
here-
action that they
here-
didn't think they
here's
could,
what it
I
is.
think.
Here's
which
what
they
it
could
is.
need legal assistance
These are the
for.
steps. When you are facing a foreclosure in New York State, which is they are required to bring suit if it's a real estate. On a co-op, they don't sue; they just sell. But on a real estate, condo
house,
or a regular real estate, the bank or lender has to bring a foreclosure action. The worst thing that a person can do is not answer that in 20 days. That is such a big mistake. It is like a 95% mistake. You are probably going to lose your property if you have
You're not
failed to
answering.
answer that 20-day period. You've got to hire an attorney and bite the bullet at that point. If you don't, you are probably going to lose the property. You have no rights any longer. It's all voluntary. If you don't have a lawyer and you go into the mandatory conferencing period, which precedes any litigation, the conferencing is where the bank decides whether they're going to give you a loan mod or not. If you're not represented by an attorney, and if you're in default, there's no reason for them to give you the loan mod, because you have no opposition, and they're going to wipe you out after they leave conferencing and they say you don't qualify. They won't give you a loan mod, and they'll wait to take your property away after the conferencing is over. But if you have shown your strength before going into conferencing that you are going to kick the crap out of the bank legally, they are more
How can you do that? How can
by
a
having a
little
good
city-
lawyer. by having a good lawyer answer with counterclaims.
What counterclaims are able to be brought out of the file and put
Well,
into action?
they often
What are
they
some of the
use
claims?
fraud. They use fraud.
You're talking about the banks.
bank defrauds people.
What
in
if
many
they
ways.
haven't used fraud? Either
Well, they have to in many cases. They always do.
So that's one tactic if they do
Well,
it. If
but
they don't,
but
what if they got all their
even
papers
without
in
even
order?
without counterclaims, you can defend and make it. You can prevent the bank for 2 or 3 years from taking your property by a vigorous defense, even without counterclaims.
Okay.
So the bank knows that, and they would rather than, instead of spending the money to delay their taking over the property for 3 years or so, that you can delay it. They will just give you a loan mod, and if you can pay it, then fine. If you can't, you've waived your defenses, and they can take your property away next year.
If they don't, can they maintain their position or their standing?
They maintain their right, but you waive
they
your
have to
defenses.
Okay.
If you sign a loan mod and you get to remain in the property,
If you sign that,
the action is over. The foreclosure action is over. You
settlement.
won. You won.
Yeah.
But if you can't pay it, they come around the next time, you don't have those same defenses. So the bank saves money by giving you a loan mod if you have a good lawyer. Simple as that.
So it's just the answer to dealing with the mortgage problem is get a good lawyer.
Yes, because
Are they aware of that? They're not in on the take?
People
or
don't know that.
No.
The banks know that. They give you a loan mod. They're more apt to give you a loan mod if your lawyer is going to cause them costs by defending the action and keeping the property away from them for 3 years. They suffer costs, monies they'll never get back. So the bank says, hey, it's really better to just give the damn person a loan mod.
So from the standpoint of the person who is involved in that, they have to get a very good lawyer.
You want an experienced lawyer in foreclosure defense.
Now, the costs of the lawyers are very high, $1,000 an hour or something.
No, that is not true. That's
no,
not
but
true
they can
at all.
be. They can
well,
be.
only on the other side.
How do we we have a register of the people who really are good at these defending the people in these
There's no
foreclosure
good registration.
things?
There's no website that has the names of good lawyers. You can't do that. There's no way you can know.
Is it something that could be done by a lawyer who's reasonably informed and so forth?
To
A
call
lawyer
himself a
X
good
out
lawyer?
of law school who really knows and could follow
Knows
it?
what?
What the rules are, what the way of
You
defending.
need experience. You have to go through the experience here of years. What I know today, I didn't know 8 years or 6 years ago. I didn't know. I really have changed over the years.
What have you learned?
I've learned what the whole thing is.
Well,
I've learned more and more.
And
for example, MERS.
MERS, that's a cyber
Mortgage
thing
Electronic
for,
Registration Systems Inc.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
MERS Corp Holdings Inc. It is a stock exchange, privately run
only for
stock exchange
few
for
eyes
banks.
to be seeing what's there. You
it's
can't get access
a stock
to it.
exchange for notes and mortgages.
Yeah.
That people that own a note, banks buy and sell notes and mortgages in MERS.
Yeah.
And they use MERS to transfer title, so that they don't transfer title at all until finally somebody's going to bring a foreclosure action. Then the newcomer comes in, you say, what is this, another servicer? Then they're getting set to sue you. The new owner of the note appoints a different servicer, and they come in the servicer's name often, or the owner, the trustee, and they sue you. But it's this, you may have had 10 or 20, probably not that many. You may have had 4 or 5 or 6 transfers of the note and mortgage without your knowledge before that.
You mean from one bank to another?
Oh, yeah.
Swallows another one?
And a servicer may buy it, they may sell it to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and it may transfer back. There's all sorts of
Do they have
transfer.
to have a train of proprietary leases or something in order to keep their standing?
Well, the problem is that they have to allege in New York State.
Pardon?
In their complaint, they have to allege that they are the owner or holder of the note, or they have been authorized by the holder to bring the suit. And they have to prove that at the moment they filed the action that they in fact had possession of the original note.
What if they don't have that?
Well, then that's what we litigate.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the issues we litigate.
Is there a lot of that going on?
Well,
but a lot of things.
That's what we always do, because we don't know if they own the note or not. We have to allege that we don't think they own it, because we don't know.
Is that the general thing of show me the note? In order for them to have, they have to have the note to have a.
You never see the note, by the way.
Yeah.
You very seldom do you ever see the note. The reason is this: that when you allege that they don't own the note, if you happen to be correct, what would they be inclined to do at that moment?
I'm
If
not sure
They
what
would settle.
They would want to.
They would offer a loan mod.
If they did.
If they had problems
Could
with the
they
case.
try? Let's suppose a note's gone from one bank to another, and then there is some record within MERS or otherwise of the original one, and they've bought the rights to that.
Let me shortcut the whole thing.
Let
me shortcut
you understand
the whole
what
thing.
I'm saying?
I do what you're saying.
And also, what's the
you're
difference?
talking chain of title.
What about the idea of the also different for the co-ops as opposed to the
you're talking
condominium?
chain of title.
Yeah,
And guess
I guess,
what? You don't need a chain of title. If you have the note in your hand, you don't have to prove how you got it.
No, but if you don't have it,
well, that's
could
different
you
now.
could you go back to the original thing where there's only they bought all the assets of the bank that went under,
Right.
and then somebody else did. You don't have the the ones who were charging you.
That's a WAMU type case where
Walmuth went under the Hughes
WAMU, the
mortgage
FDIC transferred all of the assets of WAMU to Chase.
got them for 5 cents on the dollar.
But there's no list of the assets. We don't know what WAMU had. There's no list.
But can they go back to the original thing if they go back to the original note on the property that was from a different bank that was swallowed up by
You want to
Walmuth?
see who sold the note. Who did they sell the note to? Do you think WAMU held on to these notes?
I
course
don't
they
know.
did. Of course they did. They securitized them.
They did, and then they leveraged
Then they
them.
don't own the note.
They leveraged
Then
them.
they
and
didn't own the note.
No.
Then they didn't transfer the note. The FDIC didn't transfer
Well,
the note.
doesn't that get to be that begins to sound
That's what
like
it-
fraud?
but that's
to me,
what a
if
lawsuit
they're doing
is.
that.
But that's
no,
what a
but they're
lawsuit
doing
is.
fraud.
Counterclaim.
Yeah.
See what I mean? You see how counterclaims can come up in defenses?
Yeah.
That's what a lawyer should know
Mm-hmm.
and do. And most people have other things in life. They haven't focused on it. I've been in this for a long time, and
right.
I'm learning every day. You're
You're still learning.
Oh, I'm always
You've
learning.
taken a different attitude to the whole thing than you might have held some time ago.
Yeah,
I think there's people. We had to know somebody who was out in California. The banks are being challenged over in California now to show me the note. The very simple thing, show me the note.
We've been doing that really.
Yeah.
Since 3 cases in Illinois, a federal district judge in Illinois started that, and Judge Shack and others. And
God
Judge
bless him.
Shack, by the way,
Wow.
had at one point 50% of all favorable decisions from the 3,100 jurisdictions.
Wow.
He was half of it.
Mhm.
One judge, your friend, had half of the decisions. I asked him the other day
At
in your
that meeting. Yeah.
I asked him, I said to him, you had 50% of the favorable decisions at one time, and you were the hero for people like me.
Absolutely.
And he saw the implied criticism because he isn't any longer as productive, and he explained that he doesn't have to rewrite the same thing all the time. He's said what he has to say, and it doesn't pay to say it again. So that's a good explanation of why he's said what he needed to say.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
mensch.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
a great guy.
yeah,
Yeah, really good. Yeah. But it's still going on, and there's a lot of people say, how widespread was the swath of the foreclosures that took place after 2008? How much damage did it do to the American economy, or the people that make up the American society?
The decline in the economy wiped out the bank account that people had to buy money on credit, to purchase goods on credit. It wiped out their HELOC, their second mortgage loans. It wiped out their ability to get financing. It just wiped them out because their real estate was the big saving.
Well, that's the only thing most of the citizens have been able to do. Get some net worth was through the appreciation of the
so
real
it wiped
estate.
out America.
I mean, that's a 50, 60-year record where it just went up steady. Everybody thought it was going to go on forever.
But it was
they got net worth into people who had never had it.
They were having people buy properties that shouldn't.
Well,
it drove up the price, and they securitized it. It drove it up again. They kept manipulating the price and making it way beyond the real economic worth, and it dropped back. It fell off, and people got hurt, and they always will be. But those with cash buy up these properties very cheaply. I had a case in which the value of the house was $650,000. Sold at auction on the steps of the court for $1,000.
Good God Almighty!
And 1 year later, the bank sold it for exactly $650,000 to a Korean couple.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. So there's a lot of hanky-panky, but here's what I want people to realize.
Yes, please. We only got a couple of minutes left. So
the antitrust laws in New York and the federal antitrust laws say that if you have interstate bribery in a transaction, it's a violation of the interstate of the federal antitrust laws.
Right.
If you bribe somebody in a service,
Uh-huh.
many of these foreclosures, I think,
Excuse me.
the sales are taking place where the bank officer alerts friends to go in and buy, and they don't advertise it, and there's a kickback. That is illegal.
I would
A
think
violation of the
so,
well, I
yeah.
think they're doing that, but
really?
I can't prove it. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want people to be on the watch that that's something to consider. Why are they so anxious to sell the property to a vulture fund for 25% of the amount owed when they won't even offer it to the owner? Why don't they offer it to the owner?
What's your answer?
Well, because of kickbacks.
A kickback.
There's got to be kickbacks.
Well, when that starts happening, you're into deep doo-doo, aren't you? I mean,
we-
there's a whole lot of kickbacks going on in the political and economic system in
course.
the United
Of
States,
course.
is there not?
Yeah, of course.
And things are really,
But it's
really
illegal.
There's an absurd
Yeah,
concentration of wealth. It seems
Yeah.
to me it's almost ancient regime time in
Well,
America.
I think that we can reform the economy at the lowest level, and when it happens in one town,
Yeah,
it'll
like
spread.
that one
it'll
you're trying to
spread.
do.
It'll
Yeah,
spread.
right. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
you're also keeping an eye on learning and watching the developments of what happened from the foreclosure thing, and you
Oh,
found
yeah.
yourself a foreclosure defense attorney.
I'm out here where the need is, and I'm looking at systems.
Is it
like,
getting easier for you to practice in a effective way and advise people in a way that is really effective in a practical sense on foreclosure issues, or are they still
It's
playing? I think it's
yeah.
like three-card Monty sometimes.
Well,
you know?
every case is individual.
Yeah.
You don't have any ability to take 1,000 cases and work on them together.
Yeah.
Everything is different. They're
Yeah.
all different facts,
Right,
and you
right.
know
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very intensive, very
Yeah.
labor intensive.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And special, yeah.
we need to have legislation or something, and therefore, if we could squeeze the water out of underwater mortgages,
Yeah.
we would then bring the mortgages down to an affordable level, and fewer people would lose their homes.
And that's something that
yeah.
might be able to be done through these other
Yes,
things that you're
absolutely.
doing.
Yeah,
So as
absolutely.
usual,
Yeah.
this guy Carl Pearson isn't just resting on his laurels or laying in the hammock. You're out there. I never known anybody. I don't think there's anybody in the history of New York City, including Boss Tui, who was ever more active than Carl.
Well, I've got a
Pearson.
lot of ideas, and I'd like to implement them, but I need
They
help.
should make a movie of your
Oh,
life. I
well,
really
I'm
do. I
not
think your
sure.
name. Who would play you? I don't know, but I mean, you
I
were.
wish I
because-
could play me.
Yeah, I wish you could play. You'd play it well. But you did. You went and you went to Harvard
Yeah.
after having autodidact, and
Yeah.
you're a rebel in the best sense of the best American sense of the word. And I wish you all the best in your campaign that
thank
you're
you.
running.
Thank
Is that
you.
when is there an election or something?
Well, I think it's November 6th, first Tuesday in November.
in November. So you're aiming at that now.
Well,
and
that's
then-
the election day.
Yeah, that's the one that you're aiming at. In the meanwhile, you're doing all this work, and you got you're doing so much work. We ought to try and get you enlisted over here as a faculty member.
Well,
You know, maybe you could think about coming over here to produce a program sometime in your spare time.
Yeah.
You know. You don't have a hell of a lot of spare time, do you? I'm glad you had enough spare time to come and
Absolutely,
elucidate
anytime.
the situation and lay out to the world
Yeah.
the situation that you're engaged in now in such a way, because I know we've talked about these issues before, how important Attorney General is and this kind of view of things, and you've led such a well-led life.
Yeah.
You really have. You're a hero of mine.
Well, I
You had a
appreciate
way
that.
of doing the education thing where you were sort of lackadaisical at the beginning, then you took off like a star.
I always wanted to run the cameras or the projector and do anything to get out of the class. I can't. I can't stand sitting in class. I still can't. I don't like it.
No, but then when you hit the ground running autodidactically, as they say, you got it all done really well at Harvard and all that. And you're a major addition to New York City, and it's one of New York City's treasures is this guy Carl Pearson. Carl,
Thank
so
you,
good
Harold.
to see you.
Thank you very much.
Your pleasure to have the perceptions of a major figure that brings justice into New York City and increasingly perhaps the world. And it's really our pleasure to bring you his perception to you as always. Give the best to the family. You've met the new dog, but you got to come and meet the new. What do you think of the new dog?
Well,
that dog.
I just remember that the dog was friendly. I've seen.
Yes. Got to come and meet him again. Okay. Thanks for viewing. It's your pleasure. I mean, your pleasure to have had his perception. We'll come back tomorrow. Thanks for viewing. Okay, we just got it in under the wire. Boy, you really